Massive crowds are turning out in Birmingham, England for Ozzy Osbourne's funeral. The Black Sabbath frontman and heavy metal legend died last week.
Did you catch everything at Ozzy Osbourne's funeral? Sure, the cameras captured the crowd, the tributes, and the music. But there's more to the story. Behind the scenes, there were moments that slipped under the radar, details that only came to light later. And when you hear them, your perspective on this farewell will change forever. Ozzy Osbourne, a rock legend, gone at 76. But his final moments weren't what you'd expect. No grand drama, just a quiet departure. Let's dive into what really went down. His health had been a challenge for years. Parkinson's disease, spinal surgeries, and his age all caught up with him. But despite everything, Ozzy made sure his last days were spent in peace, surrounded by the people he loved. His family confirmed his passing was peaceful, but in those final months, Ozzy had already made his farewells privately, with close friends and collaborators. Before his death, Ozzy put one final stamp on his legendary career. On July 5, 2025, he performed his last concert in Birmingham, his hometown. It wasn't a show for the books. He performed seated, and the crowd wasn't even sure he'd make it through. But he did, on his terms. That performance wasn't just about music. It was his way of saying goodbye, and it was deeply symbolic. So what did Ozzy want for his funeral? No crying, no somber speeches. He wanted people to laugh, drink, and play his music. In interviews, he joked that if anyone cried too much, he'd come back and haunt them. Sharon, his wife, confirmed his wishes were clear: celebrate his life, not his death. Behind the scenes, the family planned it all according to Ozzy's exact instructions. No church service, no eulogies, just real moments, honoring the man he truly was. And when the news broke, the public reacted immediately. Fans gathered outside his home, leaving flowers, records, candles. A wave of tributes flooded in from across the globe. But the true send-off came on July 30th, 2025, when Birmingham came to a standstill. The public procession became a celebration of Ozzy's life, with stops at key locations in his journey. Thousands lined the streets, waving banners, playing his music, chanting his name. It was loud, proud, and quintessentially Ozzy. The procession wasn't just a goodbye, it was a statement. This was Ozzy Osbourne's city, his legacy, his way, no drama. Just music, memories, and meaning. And that, my friends, is the final chapter of Ozzy Osbourne. The moments you didn't see. Those are the ones that truly matter. The final journey of Ozzy Osbourne. Birmingham, July 30th, 2025. The city paused to honor one of its most beloved sons. Mounted officers led the way, their presence commanding. Behind them, a single black hearse carrying the legend himself. But what you didn't see were the raw, emotional moments. The tributes that came straight from the heart of the fans. As the hearse passed through the streets, people tossed flowers, handwritten letters, even worn-out boots wrapped in plastic. One had a note reading, "You walked with us. Now rest." In the crowd, a woman held up a vinyl of Blizzard of Oz, quietly sobbing as the procession passed. A final connection to the music that changed their lives. The fans didn't just mourn, they celebrated. Near Villa Park, Ozzy's favorite football stadium, the air was filled with songs. Aston Villa's anthem echoed, followed by the sound of Iron Man, played by a local brass band. It was a salute, not just to Ozzy Osbourne, but to Birmingham itself. Fans clapped and chanted his name as the motorcade moved forward, no one organized it. It was spontaneous, real, the kind of farewell reserved for heroes, not just celebrities. Streetlights dimmed, and large screens lit up with archived footage of Ozzy performing, living and rocking. The Osbourne family wasn't in the front row. They stayed back, respecting the moment, allowing the city to grieve without the weight of public attention. Their windows were tinted. Their presence was felt, but never overwhelming. Then there were the vendors selling unofficial shirts, posters, and memorabilia. Some found it distasteful. Others saw it as a way to take something home, a tangible piece of Ozzy to remember him by. But the most emotional moment came when the procession reached the Black Sabbath Bridge, a landmark that meant everything to Ozzy and his fans. The Osbourne family arrived quietly. Sharon, dressed in black, clutching a bouquet of purple flowers, made her way toward the bench dedicated to Ozzy. It wasn't just symbolic. It was deeply personal. Her hand trembled as she placed the flowers down, pausing to touch the back of the bench. A private moment for a very public figure. Her children followed with gestures of their own. Jack, who often spoke about his chaotic but close bond with his father, placed a folded letter on the bench. It was personal, meant only for Ozzy. Kelly, honoring her father's legacy in round purple glasses, sat beside the flowers, resting her hand on the bench. Silent, but deeply connected. This wasn't a royal procession. It wasn't a state funeral. It was something else entirely, an authentic, heartfelt goodbye, a tribute that was as messy as it was beautiful. This was Birmingham's farewell to Ozzy Osbourne, rock legend, hometown hero. One last time, they said goodbye, and they did it their way. In the quiet that followed Ozzy Osbourne's public farewell, there was one moment barely anyone noticed. Sharon, surrounded by her family, stood at the Black Sabbath bench for one final goodbye. She whispered something to herself. Then, without a tear in sight, rejoined the group. The family's tribute remained quiet, deeply personal. No speeches, no fanfare. Just them, together. But as they turned to leave, Sharon gave one last glance. Just a few seconds. That fleeting moment, caught on camera, captured something unspoken. Something deeper than words could express. It wasn't for the press. It wasn't for the crowd. It was just for them. A personal goodbye in a public space on their terms. What happened next wasn't something anyone expected. As the photos circulated online, fans and reporters noticed something striking. Sharon was wearing a thin gold chain with a simple, unmistakable pendant, Ozzy's wedding ring, but not the original from their 1982 wedding. This was the one from their 2017 vow renewal, a symbol of survival, forgiveness, and commitment after overcoming so many personal struggles. She didn't draw attention to it. She didn't point it out. She didn't speak of it, but wearing it so openly. That was a message. Quiet, powerful, a message of love, endurance, and loyalty. And the world took notice. It wasn't just jewelry. It was proof that their love had endured and remained unshaken until the very end. But that wasn't the only thing that stood out. Jack Osbourne's protective presence throughout the day didn't go unnoticed. He stayed close to Sharon, guiding her, shielding her when the press got too close. It wasn't just support. It was a role he'd embraced in the final weeks of Ozzy's life. He'd even moved into a guest house to be closer to his father, coordinating with city officials, handling logistics, taking charge of everything Sharon simply couldn't. Kelly, though visibly emotional, kept her distance. She didn't speak to the press. She didn't post anything that day. But the next day, she shared a single photo, a vintage microphone. Her caption, "Silence says more." Fans took it as her tribute to the man who gave her life and a name in the music world. And then came more tributes from across the globe. From Tony Iommi to James Hetfield. From fans in Los Angeles to Tokyo. Ozzy Osbourne's legacy wasn't just his music. It was in the lives he touched, the memories he created, and the spirit he left behind. But there's one thing people didn't see coming: the private farewell. The Osbourne family, honoring Ozzy's final wishes, are planning a private, invitation-only service. There won't be cameras, no press. Just a quiet, intimate goodbye. Sharon, Jack, Kelly, Amy. Each of them will honor his life in their own way. The burial will take place on private land, far from public eyes. Just as Ozzy wanted. No tourist attraction. No spectacle. Just family. Just peace. It's clear this wasn't just a funeral. It was a final statement. A tribute to a man who changed the world with his music, but who will be remembered for so much more. And that's something no one expected. So, did you catch everything? Or do you think there's something even more profound we might have missed at Ozzy's farewell? Let us know in the comments.